What up, bye babes? Okay, so today's video is going to be about Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So on October 8th, there will be 3 cases that are making its way to the Supreme Court. The first one is Bostock versus Clayton County, Georgia. The second one is Altitude Express versus Zarda. And the third one is RG and GR Harris Funeral Home versus Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Now, these cases that are going to be tried in the Supreme Court will have huge ramifications for LGBT people and also people who are not LGBT. They're going to be arguing whether somebody can be discriminated at work or their sexual orientation and revealing their sexual orientation, and also for their gender presentation, and also whether they transition or not. It's kind of weird to me because this has been ongoing for a couple of years now, and this case hasn't really taken like center stage when it comes to like media. And even in many LGBT circles, I feel like I'm just now kind of hearing about this over the last couple of weeks. This is like huge news that will have implications for all of time. And there's a whole like coalition of people who will be outside of the Supreme Court on October 8th. But I kind of wanted to use this to talk about a larger conversation, which is many of us get into our little bubbles and we just kind of stay there, and we don't really do that great of a job of being allies or standing in solidarity with other marginalized groups. It is really frustrating, especially when you talk about, 20 trans women have been murdered this year for being trans that we know of. And one of them almost didn't get the recognition because what happens oftentimes is people who are trans, they get dead named and it's not clear that this person is trans. So it's really frustrating when things happen to other marginalized groups, especially under the LGBT umbrella, and we kind of like can have tunnel vision and just stay in our own lane and not look out to see what's happening to other marginalized groups. And I think that really needs to change. I think we need to do a better job of trying to be there for one another, whether it's monetarily or spreading awareness and showing up for one another. I was talking to one of my friends and they were telling me a story about one of their friends who has a sibling who is non-binary. Now, that sibling, who's my friend's friend, kept using the wrong pronouns for their own sibling. And they were saying, oh yeah, the pronouns they, them, it's not singular, it's plural, so it feels weird using it for a singular person. And how many times are we going to have this same conversation before it clicks for everybody? Even dictionary.com had to come out and say that they, them is also singular. It has been singular for a very long time. But it really goes down to this. Just call people what they ask to be called. Just respect what people want to be called. It's really not that hard. It's not that hard. It just takes a little bit more effort on your part, and it says a lot to the other person. It goes a long way to the other person. Solidarity is so important in marginalized groups, and a way to stand in solidarity with other marginalized groups is to actually follow other people from other marginalized groups, and not just like one. I always say on Twitter, like, hey, if I'm the only black bisexual man that you follow, you're not really gonna learn a lot from me, because I have my own very specific set of experiences. I have my own very specific range of knowledge and range of topics that I'm comfortable sharing on the internet. So it's important to like find other black, bisexual, male, and follow a variety of people, not just like one. And you're not like putting the entire onus for your learning and for you to be able to stand in solidarity with somebody onto the shoulders of just one person, or just that one black person that you follow. The last video that I made was about the Botham Jean results, and it set so many black people off. So many of us are used to not being cared for by the racist institutions and the racist governments that we live under. And even more recently, Joshua Brown, who was the neighbor of Botham Jean, he was murdered. He was murdered, and many people believe that this was orchestrated, if not carried out, by Dallas police. Now, if you don't follow that many black people, or if you only follow one black person, you probably don't know about this case. You probably don't even know what I'm talking about. And there are days where things like the verdict of Amber Geiger came out, and the verdict of this had an impact on my day. had an impact on my week. It's frustrating because when I go into spaces where there are no black people and they see that I'm like a little like weird or ticked off or maybe sad or introverted, and they're just kind of like, oh, maybe he's just having a bad day. And it's like, yeah, I am having a bad day because of this news that broke that affects me, but y'all don't even know about it. And so similarly, if you're not trans, it's important to follow a variety of trans men, a variety of trans women, black, white, Asian, indigenous, and different ages, different abilities. And when you start following a variety of people from a marginalized group, you start to finally sort of gain clarity and start to begin to see nuance and how this impacts this group differently, and how everybody has a different vantage point too. Everybody has a different opinion. We're not all just like one monolith, we're all different. I know that normally my Bisexual Men Speak videos are very targeted toward bisexual men, and I usually speak to bisexual issues, but this is a bisexual issue. What's going to happen on October 8th, the Supreme Court, these cases that I've talked about, this is going to directly affect bisexual people, and even if it doesn't affect us right now, down the line it will. Even if Autumn Jean and Joshua Brown and all of that doesn't affect people who are not black right in this instant, eventually it will affect you. If everybody's rights are getting taken and eaten away at, eventually your rights are going to get taken and eaten away at, so it's important for you to care. So please let me know what you think of this video. Please, I will link stuff down below, ways that you can learn more about proceedings on October 8th and ways you can get involved. But please do your part in standing in solidarity with other marginalized groups. I'll see you later. Bye, babes.